Welcome back to another Book Talk with Tracy. Last time I read the prologue from Conspiracy of Bones, previously called And the Beat Goes On. It takes place in ancient times before the flood of Noah as perhaps a graphic display of the kind of debauchery that humankind was involved in at that time. Today I'd like to read from chapter 1 in the book, which of course is the story that continues from there. So, chapter 1. The African sun beat down on the open jeep as Dr. Mark Graham and his companion bumped along what could hardly be called a road. A local man from the Mdele tribe, hired on as part of the archaeological team, drove the jeep along the hazardous path up the mountain. Hair-raising switchbacks and steep inclines didn't seem to faze the driver as he maneuvered the vehicle with one hand. Some pebbles cascaded off the trail's edge to the ravine below. Good thing he was used to it, Mark decided, or he might be tempted to bail. As he braced himself for the next jarring pothole, Mark thought about yesterday's meeting with the Zimbabwean government officials. Everything had gone well, on the surface at least. They had agreed to continue their sponsorship. Yet there was this nagging sense at the back of his mind that something rippled beneath the surface, something hidden either by neglect or design of which he was not aware. It was an uncomfortable feeling, probably just his general distaste for dealing with administrators. It rankled when unnecessary red tape got in the way of progress. His crew had been meticulously digging under the site of an ancient temple, a sacred site stringently protected by the government. The temple site itself had been unearthed decades ago, but legend had led to speculation that an even older civilization had once used the spot. Mark had been honored when asked to assemble a team of specialists to investigate the possibilities without compromising the original excavations. It was painstaking work, but already, after only 5 months, the team was rewarded with signs that the legends were indeed rooted in fact. Under the Temple Mount, they had discovered an even more ancient burial ground with an intricate system of tombs that seemed oddly more advanced technologically than the layer of simple graves directly above. This was not entirely unexpected. History often spoke of a more barbarous people supplanting a superior civilization. But there was more, so much more. There was a sense that they were on the verge of something big, monumental even. And then the authorities had the audacity to question whether there was any use continuing. They said they were running out of budget and it was taking too long. Fools! Didn't they know there was no way to unearth secrets that had been buried for millennium in just a few short months? These things took time and care and money. That was the bottom line. Always was. Mark wished he had the benefit of some nice millionaire benefactor. Oh well. For now, he managed to secure another 4-month contract, having convinced the officials of the importance of the find to the economic development of the region. But in the end, he doubted it would be enough time. He was a scientist, not a magician. As the jeep rounded the last corner, Mark spotted one of the tents that had been set up on site as a lab. The archaeological site extended over a fairly large area. Several tents and simple wooden structures had been erected to house the necessary workstations and accommodate the crew. Square sections had been roped off for the painstaking process of uncovering tidbits of information, 1 grain of sand at a time. Mark jumped from the jeep into the cloud of gathering dust and strode directly to the quarters where he expected to find his co-worker, Laura Sawchuk. He left his bags for his Mdelian assistant. He had left Laura in charge during his brief absence. Laura Sawchuk, doctor of anthropology, was very knowledgeable in a wide field and was also very capable at giving directions and leadership. She had been his colleague on more than one job, and he trusted her judgment and skill for the task at hand. She was also, at present, his girlfriend. Girlfriend had a somewhat adolescent ring to it, Mark decided. His partner would be a more appropriate phrase. It was the terminology Laura used anyway. Mark wasn't quite sure how their relationship had advanced to more than just colleagues. Close proximity did that to people sometimes, and loneliness. He found Laura examining a fragment under a microscope. She didn't look up when he entered. At 36, she was a couple of years older than he was. Her career always came first, a fact that suited Mark since he shared her passion for work. He strode to where she sat and tried to get a glimpse over her shoulder at the tiny fragment. "What have we here?" "Hello to you, too." She didn't look up. "I thought you were going to be back yesterday." "I was delayed an extra day in Harare." Mark pulled up a stool and sat down beside her. "Oh, is that good news or bad?" she asked. "Good. I managed to convince them to give us another 4 months." 4 months? Laura straightened and looked at Mark for the first time since he'd arrived. "We can't possibly be finished in 4 months." She reached over and flicked a stray twig from his unruly mass of dark curls. "I know that." Mark ran a hand through his hair, creating a small cloud of dust. "But I had to take it or leave it." Laura leaned forward and placed a quick kiss on Mark's nose, her streaked brown and blonde ponytail bobbing. "Good to have you back in any case. Mnanga didn't kill you, I see, with his reckless driving." Mark grinned. "Still in one piece, miracle as that is. What are you looking at anyway?" "A fragment from the plaster leading into the antechamber I told you about." Laura turned back to the microscope. "It seems to have some kind of metal alloy embedded in it." "Plaster?" Mark's brows furrowed. Laura nodded. "I'm not sure what else to call it. A coating of some kind. Unusual, I know." "Very," Mark agreed. "Most tombs are simply hewn from the rock, not plastered over. Mind if I take a look?" Laura relinquished her seat, and Mark took his turn peering into the microscope. I see what you mean. I've never seen anything like it." He couldn't help keeping the disappointment from his voice. He'd wanted to be the first one into the chamber. "Don't worry, we haven't made a breakthrough into the chamber itself yet. I knew you'd be disappointed not to be here, so we've held back a bit." "Thanks, I appreciate it." Mark continued to peruse the tiny fragment. "Besides, there's been plenty of other excitement to keep us busy," she said. "Like?" "The bone fragments." "Still no word from the lab?" Mark already knew the answer. He'd checked back in Harare. "No, but we're starting to see a pattern," Laura said. Mark's curiosity was really pricked now. He looked up. "What kind of pattern?" "Come and see," Laura said, leaving the plaster fragment behind for the time being. She led Mark to a computer station. She sat down in front of the screen and clicked several icons with the mouse. A large blueprint of the dig appeared on the screen. "The strange bone fragments we found first were located here." She pointed to the location with her finger. "Alongside the human remains that appear to have been disturbed either by some type of seismic activity or by other humans." Mark nodded. It was nothing new. He'd been present during that discovery. "Go on." "The next grave we uncovered also contained unidentified bone fragments, only this time—" She paused for effect. She glanced over at him, ready to gauge his reaction. He raised his brows in question. "I'll bring up a digital photo," she said, clicking the mouse deftly once again. Several windows opened. Here we are." She punched one more key and a color photo came up of a long, curved bone. It was broken in 2 places, with part of the inner section missing. She hit another key and a second picture came up. This time it showed Laura and Rocco, one of the crew managers, holding the bone between them. Mark whistled. "That's one big chicken wing." "Then you agree it looks like part of a wing?" Laura asked, surveying him closely. Mark blinked and peered at the image again. "Yes, it does, doesn't it?" "The humerus is almost entirely intact, with parts of the ulna attached. It looks to be from a very large winged creature. The parts that are left clearly seem to have been placed with the body intentionally." "How large?" "Pretty darn big, that's all I have to say. Bigger than an albatross or any present species of bird that I know of." "You know what this means, don't you?" Mark looked over at Laura, obvious excitement burning in his eyes. "We've discovered another Troy, an ancient legend thought to be nothing more than myth." He pounded the computer table and the monitor flickered momentarily. "Watch it," Laura warned with a smile. "Our power supply isn't the most stable." "What else you got?" Mark asked. "Rocco's team has been continuing on those same graves. He may find the other wing, so to speak. And by the look of the placement of those 2 graves, we're speculating there could be a whole ring of graves surrounding the entrance to the antechamber." She paused. providing you want to disturb them. Like guards. Mark rubbed his chin, 2 days' worth of stubble rasping under his fingers. Right. Here's another interesting find from the same grave. Laura pointed to the next photo. It appears to be some kind of headpiece or mask, probably worn expressly for burial. It's pretty badly decayed, and it was in danger of disintegrating into dust if we tried to remove it. Mark just stared at the screen. I know what you're thinking, Laura interrupted his thoughts. About that legend. Don't go spreading rumors until the lab has done a full analysis. I've had a hard enough time convincing Rocco to keep his feet on the ground. You know how he can be. We could all be discredited if we aren't careful. First, we need solid lab work on both the human and non-human fragments. No need to remind me about procedure, Doctor, Mark stated in a businesslike tone. I'm still chief archaeologist on this dig. Of course. Laura gave Mark a sideways glance. I wasn't trying to offend you. You seem awfully touchy. Mark sighed and ran a hand through his unruly hair. I guess I'm just tired after the trip. Your nerves are shot after Mganga's driving, Laura offered. Right, Mark agreed with a chuckle. Plus, I hate being out of the loop. I feel like all the important discoveries are being made when I'm gone. You need to relax. Laura stood up and moved to stand behind him. She began kneading his neck with her fingers. That feels good. Mark closed his eyes. I can make it feel even better later, Laura said with a suggestive smile. Oh, definitely worth coming back for. Mark allowed her fingers to do their magic on the stiff cords in his neck. Suddenly he opened his eyes. I'd like to take a look myself. He straightened all business again. At that bone. It's been stored and numbered with the rest of the artifacts. Of course. Laura dropped her hand. I just thought you might want to wait and start fresh tomorrow. With only 4 months' grace? I don't think we can spare the time. He rose and turned to leave. Laura stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. Mark? I missed you. His nod of acknowledgement was barely perceptible as he headed out the door. I'm going to stop there. There are a couple more scenes in chapter 1 where he gets a look at the bone that turns out to be that of a pterodactyl. And that is where the story heads. It's called Conspiracy of Bones because they do discover these giant pterodactyl remains along with giant human remains. And of course, then the scientific community has a lot to say about that. He's accused of making it all up. Is it a hoax? His life is in danger. Lots of intrigue happens in the book after that. So I encourage you to get a copy of the book yourself. Read it. If you enjoy it, leave a review. I do always appreciate that. And you can check out my other books on my website, which is tracykrause.com. No E in Tracy and 2 S's in Krause. Thank you for your attention today. I hope you enjoy this book and stay tuned next time for more from Tracy in Book Talk with Tracy. All right. Bye-bye.